Hello everyone. I thought I would give you a preview of the new Masterson story that I'm doing. The Masterson Chronicles of the Lost Years. Obviously, I can't read as well as Mr. Creepypasta, and it's hot, so I ain't got my shirt on. So sorry about that, but you can only see my neck. So, there's areolas on view. Anyway, so I'll try my best. It's rough. I'm not edited, so I haven't got my punctuation that sorted yet, but I'll try and work around that as best I can. Okay, here we go. Jacob Masterson stood in the river, a silent tear running down his craggy face. Reaching down through the clear waters, he picked up a handful of gravel and began to scour his body. He knew he couldn't wash away the past, just like he couldn't wash away his sins. But the pain brought a clarity he had not felt since the day he had found his dead wife's poor and defiled body torn and laying in a pool of her own blood. He had avenged Jane's death, killing a creature he could never imagine existed outside of man's worst nightmares. That had been over 2 months ago. 2 months he had wandered the wilderness, unable or unwilling to return back home to the ruin of his former life. In that time he had hardly eaten or drank, but waited for death to take him. But it had not come, and he feared that God still had some felt purpose in mind for what was left of Jacob Masterson. He had awoken this very morning to find his horse had returned. She had left him when he had stopped caring for her, too lost in his own pain, and she had abandoned him. Still this morning he had been awoken by her gentle nudging, and for the first time in a long time a small smile had spread across his craggy features as he stood and patted her silken sides. Wherever she had been, she was obviously no worse for wear. "Good girl," he groaned, patting her neck gently. The big mare took a step backwards, her liquid eyes looking him up and down before nudging him towards the river. "And just what the hell do you think you're doing?" Jacob croaked again. The big mare pushed him forward. He was just about to curse her roundly when she reared up, and with a cry Jacob stumbled backwards, lost his footing and went into the river with an almighty splash. He popped up to the surface just like a cork before splashing towards the riverbank, but the big mare stomped and pawed at the ground, blocking his efforts to climb free. Eventually, after much cursing and threats, Jacob gave up, stripped off his rags, and began to cleanse himself. A sudden quote from the Bible seemingly came to mind out of nowhere. "By the waters of Babylon," Jacob muttered, "there we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion, and so we sung songs in a foreign land in the face of our tormentors' mirth." The tears had come then, silently and steadily. But who were the tears really for? His poor wife Jane, or himself? For had she not gone to greater glory? Were the tears that those left behind shed for the departed, or for those all longing to see such loved ones again, to speak words left unspoken, and to feel their touch and hear their laughter once more? Jacob stayed in the waters for some time, until at last his tears dried up and he began to feel whole again. Climbing from the riverbank, his horse now casually chomping grass, he went in search of his guns. It took Jacob a long while to finally locate his pistols. In his delirium and grief he had cast them aside. Now he found them at the base of an old oak tree, still wrapped, secure in the firm embrace of his gun belt, his brass cartridges gleaming like fire in the midday sun. Slowly, reverently, he knelt down and scooped them up, marvelling at their pristine condition. For over 2 months they had lain in the dirt, battered as Jacob had been by the weather and wind. Yet they looked like they had come out of the showcase only yesterday. Slowly he pulled back the hammer and revolver cylinders, enjoying the smooth sounding click. "We live in an age of miracles, to be sure," Jacob grunted, strapping on his pistols and grabbing up his nearby saddle. The big mare, seeing this, sauntered over and gave Jacob her back. Jacob grinned and saddled her up before climbing aboard, and immediately she began to trot towards the west. Jacob didn't rein her in. He felt too good to be back in the saddle once again, the past left behind in the trail dust, and the future uncertain. There you go. I've got plenty more that I could read. If you want to hear more, I'll read more. It's up to you guys. Like I said, I'm not Mr. Creepypasta. I'm a writer. Not one of those guys who narrates. So Oh, I know I stumbled and mumbled a bit of that, but it's in first draft. There's hardly even a full stop in there, so I don't think I did that badly. But let me know what you think of the story so far, and if you want more, I can read you a little bit more. It gets a bit more interesting as it goes on. We're just opening up the scene. Remember that these are the lost years, so this is 20 years before we met Jacob, just after the death of his wife Jane. Her first death, not when she comes back from the dead later on. So this is just after he's killed the vampire that killed his wife. So yeah, this is in between those times. So, there's 20 years of adventures there we could do. And I think I'm going to write them. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Let me know in the comment section. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I'll read more. If you want more, I'll read you some more. No problem at all. Cheers, guys.